I'm Todd Alan Crain. In this series, I ask everyone I interview, no matter what their profession, the same 3 questions. Tell me your worst career-related story, tell me your best career-related story, and tell me the greatest piece of advice you've ever been given or something by which you try to live your daily life. My second interview in this 3 by T.A.C. series is with my friend and musical theater Broadway star, Anika Larsen. Among the impressive and varied credits on Anika's resume, you'll find a Drama Desk Award and Tony nomination for Outstanding Featured Actress in a Musical for originating the role of Cynthia Weil in the 2014 Tony-nominated Broadway production of Beautiful, the Carole King musical. During the Tell Me Your Best Piece of Advice segment, Anika surprised me with a beautiful secret that took me completely by surprise.
Okay, so you asked me what's the worst thing that's ever happened in my career and what's the best thing that's ever happened in my career, and they're actually the same story, also wrapped up into each other, that there's just no way to tell this one without the other, so I'm just going to tell the whole story.
Go for it.
Cool? All right. About 3 years ago, I was the lowest I've ever been in my life. I was 39. I had just gone through a breakup. I had been, shall we say, underemployed for a couple of years. I had been pretty busy, but never making anything approaching a living wage. Then my agent called, and he said, Beautiful, the Carole King musical is going to go to Broadway, finally, and they want you to come in for final callbacks.
Had you done...
I had.
You had?
Yes, I had done 3 developmental readings of the show, the first 3, and then they had done a 4th, and they had recast me. That's the biz. Like, that happens, and it sucks, and you deal with it, and you move on because you're so used to it. And it hurt. This one had especially hurt because the role of Cynthia Weil, she and I were so good for each other. I just knew how good we were for each other. So I just really was sure they were just bringing me in as a formality. But I busted my ass, and I worked real hard, and I went in, and I did the best that I could, and they were lovely, and it was lovely to see the team again, and they clapped at the end of my song, and everything about it was a nice audition. But I walked out of there just sure I hadn't booked it. I got on the subway on the way home, and I just thought, I can't bear this. I just kept thinking about what an opportunity this was that I was so close to. For the first time, creating a lead on Broadway, and this part that I knew was so fantastic. It's a masochistic way to live, this business. It's so awful and so hard. And even when you have some measure of success, it gets easier, but it never gets easy. I think we all think about quitting the business, really, probably once every day, right. Before, I just couldn't figure out an exit strategy when I thought about doing it. And so this time I was like, no, this is what I'm doing. I am getting a normal people job where I don't have to worry about losing my paycheck or my health insurance, and I'm having a baby on my own. And that's what the next chapter of my life is going to look like. I managed to get to my block before I started to sob about it. And I spent the rest of the night just sort of weeping, just kind of mourning the career that I had wanted and the life that I thought I would have. I thought by this point I for sure would be working regularly in the theater with a husband and babies. And I went to sleep, and the next morning I woke up calm and resolved and ready to start my day, figuring out like what I could actively do to start this new life. And then my agent called and he said, you got it. And I said, I got what? And he said, Beautiful. You got Beautiful. He had to convince me that I got it. So then I get off the phone, and again, so much sobbing in these 24 hours. So cut to a couple months later, I'm at the first day of rehearsal for Beautiful, and it's surrounded by so many talented people, everybody who's the best at what they do in this business, Jesse Mueller and Jared Spector, and a creative team who was wonderful. And then day 4, I start feeling these stomach pains at lunchtime. By the evening, I was fainting in the front door of the emergency room. And by 4 a.m, they were telling me that my colon had flipped and twisted on itself, and that if I didn't have it cut out, surgery on it, that it would burst and I would die. And this had to happen within a matter of hours. I have a Broadway show. How long will it take to recover? And they said 6 to 8 weeks. And I thought, there goes my Broadway show. However many hours later, I came out of surgery, and I thought, bump that. This is too good an opportunity. I am fighting for this part. I'm not letting this out of my grasp. 8 days later, I was back in rehearsal. I was not well. I mean, I lost 10 pounds in 10 days because you can't eat through this whole process. I was perpetually on the verge of fainting and trying to hide it. I have a giant incision up my belly that is being held together by like thread and staples.
Oh my God.
I tell you that not because that is the worst thing that's ever happened to me in my career, because it's not. We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay. This is part of the best, just to be clear.
It is part of the best.
This is part of the best.
Because The company of beautiful, cast, crew, everyone, were so good to me. Like, it's sort of overwhelming to think about when I look back. Most of them had known me 4 days, and they took such care of me. Everyone checking in, making sure, how was I doing? Was I okay? Jared Spector, who played my husband in the show, anytime there was a moment that we could pause in rehearsals, he had found a chair and slid it under me so that I could sit. The creative team, every day they would call me late and release me early so I didn't have to do a full day, which was so lovely of them. And the producers got me a car service to pick me up from Brooklyn, to take me to Midtown and back every day, because there was no way I had it in me to navigate the New York City subway system. By the time we get to opening night, I am so overwhelmed with gratitude at Bows that I just am so proud of the stamp I've put on this woman that I have helped to create, and I'm so grateful to be alive, to be there. And the show is nominated for awards, and I'm nominated for awards. I'm nominated for a Tony. I win a Drama Desk Award. And then a record producer asks me if I want to record an album. And I'm terrified. I'm like, me for 90 minutes? I'm one of 10 children. That makes me so uncomfortable. No. But then I came to my senses and was like, if somebody wants to do this with me, let's do it. So I'm recording the album. And then on a Wednesday afternoon, a matinee, I get a knock at my door. And it's 2 of my sisters who should be at work. And they're there telling me, they're sobbing. And they tell me our brother died. And, he was 42 and he had a wife and 2 4-year-old twins, and they had just found out 3 days before that she was pregnant again. And it was sepsis, it was sudden, they had no idea. And I tell you this not because it was the worst thing that ever happened in my career, because it was not. It was the worst thing that ever happened in my life. But again, because the company of beautiful was such a family to me, surrounded me with so much love. I sent an email to all of them basically telling them what happened in the details, because I said I can't talk about it without crying still. And I wear far too much eyeliner in this show to be able to get through if you guys want to talk to me about this. And Jared wrote back to me and he said, sweetheart, it's going to be sunshine and roses for you. That's it when you get back. And the day I got back, they said things like, did you know it takes sunlight 8 seconds to get from the sun to the earth? Did you know there's a rose in Germany that's 1,000 years old? Just fun facts about sunshine and roses. The whole show.
Jared Spector sounds like the greatest person alive.
He really, really is.
Jared Spector, I'd like to hear your take on this whole situation if you're available.
He really is. Am I all right?
Yeah, you're good. You're beautiful.
Life goes on as it must. 3 months after my brother died, I peed on a stick and I found out I was pregnant.
Yay!
Yay!
Not just a regular stick you found on the sidewalk. No, this is an actual medical
It was
device.
An actual stick I bought at the CVS.
Thank God.
Yeah,
that would have
made
been
a little
weird.
more sense.
Just peeing on sticks. Wherever you could find one.
Then I went away on maternity leave and I gave birth to a little beautiful, dear sweet baby boy.
He is a little nugget.
Who we named for my brother.
Yeah.
And then a few months after that, I went back to work. All of my dreams had come true. All of the problems that I had at the lowest point in my life.
Right.
My finances, my career, my marital status,
right.
and children.
Right.
Everything had been fixed. And I was so aware and overwhelmed and so grateful. I did that for 6 months. And then my agent called. And he said, Anika, I just got a call from the beautiful producers. And they're not renewing your contract. And I said, what? Why? And they said, well, they said that you're too old to play the part anymore. And I said, after 2 years? What? That doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make sense if you sort of even start to go down the road of investigating that claim. For so many reasons, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
What does make more sense is that they didn't want to pay my salary anymore. It's that all the other originals had left. I was the only salary that they could cut back on. Year 3 of the show. Ugh. And Broadway's a business. And their producers, their primary job is to make money for their investors and to keep the show running as long as possible. And so even though I had thought, if a Tony nomination gets me nothing else in my career, doesn't at least keep me the job I was nominated for? Like, isn't that security? But apparently not, no. And then I started thinking of all the reasons why it was a good thing, because that's what we do, right? You don't get a gig and you're like, yeah, but then I couldn't have done this if I... The primary one being getting to spend more time with my little baby boy, when he's so young and changing every day. It is the worst thing that ever happened to me in my career, not necessarily because of the amount of pain it caused, but it was the worst thing because up until then, everything about Beautiful had been such a fairy tale. I mean, a fairy tale with highs and lows for sure, but like a fairy tale. And fairy tales aren't supposed to have such crappy endings.
No.
I have a friend who's a playwright from Alabama. And her mother is eminently quotable. She's always dropping these pearls. And one time my friend was nursing a heartbreak. She was having a real hard time getting over this boy. And her mother said to her, sometimes you just got to go out in your front yard and yell, next!
So with all of that being said, and there was a lot said, that's a big story.
Yeah.
What do you walk away with?
I think the best advice that I can think of for people starting out in the theater is the idea of work-life balance. That people apply to most careers, but I don't think people realize how important it is for theater. Each individual show, each individual performance, each individual audition are not that important. They can't be that important, or you will live and die with each one, and you can't do that. I think the only way to counterbalance that is to make sure you have things outside of the theater that feed you. It helps with perspective. The pinnacle of perspective giving is having a family of your own.
Right.
Because the minute I had that baby, everything in life was different.
Right.
The list of what was important became so clear. So all you kids out there who are just getting started, get knocked up, is what I'm saying.
No, that's not what she's saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Put your brakes on. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is having a family of your own is a goal, and to be sort of working towards that alongside your career. And not everybody's family that they're given works for them. I always say you have your family you're given and your family you choose. But whatever kind of family you've got, keeping them as a resource in your life. But if I didn't have my wonderful new husband and my wonderful new baby to go home to, really the beautiful disappointment would have been more than a disappointment. It would have been devastating. The best thing I take out of it, of course, is my new family. And not just one, but 2 little babies who only exist because of Beautiful, the Carole King musical. I am 4.5 months pregnant with another little boy who is a beautiful baby. And what I'm going to do right now is take care of my little toddler who's making noise upstairs, and take care of this little one and cook him real good until I push him out. And I'm going to spend this time cultivating this part of my work-life balance and my family, because that's the focus right now. And, a few months after the next one is born, maybe I'll be ready to start thinking about my career again. Right. And maybe then I'll feel like going out in my front yard and yelling, next!
Next!
Because that's what you do, right? That's what you do. Bring it on. What's next? Are there any more exciting words in this life than what's next?
Next, indeed. If you have any questions or comments about 3 by T.A.C., or if you or someone you know has some incredible responses to the 3 questions that I'm asking in this series, no matter what their profession, send me an email at 3bytac@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.